Hello and welcome to today's 14 WIEF Global Discourse on Cellular Agriculture, the Future of Food. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me first introduce our moderator for today, Professor Dr. Nur Shahida Khairullah, Medical Director of 23 Century International Life Science Centers in Berhad, Malaysia. Now, the floor is all yours, Professor.
Thank you, Madam Chairperson. It's a pleasure to be with all of you today, and we are going to discuss a very wide, huge topic, which I have personal interest and intellectual interest in as well. As we know, there is an increase in global population, and it's been estimated by the United Nations to be about 10 billion by the year 2050. And in consequence of this, this is due to urbanization, increased incomes, and substantial increase in protein demands. Obviously, this will coincide very strongly with the near depletion of natural resources that are needed for farming animals as well as plants. In addition to these challenges, there are also issues related to changing climates that have necessitated the development of novel sources of protein and other food constituents that will be both sustainable as well as having less impact to the environment. Hitherto, we present today the 14th WIEF Global Discourse on Cellular Agriculture, the Future of Food. There are a few things that we'll be discussing somewhat in detail if time permits, and this includes the recent and anticipated future developments of the industry, obviously, market opportunities for startups, SMEs, and other stakeholders, sustainability, affordability, and safety that is of prime concern, investments required to achieve economies of scale, as well as is cellular agriculture at the end of this discourse really a feasible solution for the society, for health and longevity? Without further ado, I'm going to now introduce to you our first speaker, and she is Dr. Dawal Al-Gawas. She is the founder and CEO of SWAPAC, State of Kuwait. Dr. Al-Gawas is the also deals in agri-food consultancy, focused on food security and bridging commercial and cultural worlds in the GCC as well as Asia Pacific. She is a specialist in future food technologies. SWAPAC invests in research, commercialization, capital, and partnership to support high-growth startups, and specializes in food safety, biotechnology, diagnostics, clinical research, and public health. These are the components really required to be looked at in detail in terms of the future of cellular agriculture. She established the first food technology accelerator in Hong Kong and world's first alternative protein accelerator. She's done a lot. And I'm very impressed with your CV, Dr. Dalal. You've worked with more than 100 global technology startups, focusing primarily on plant-based protein alternatives, cellular agriculture, sustainability, medtech, and software. She's, of course, an international thought leader in this up-and-coming field in food technology space, and received her PhD in food science and food biotechnology from Asian University of Hong Kong, with publications, evidence in top-tier peer-reviewed journals, manuals, and industry reports. She'll be focusing today on the introduction and development of cellular agriculture. With great pleasure, I invite Dr. Dala Al-Gawal to take the floor.
Thank you, Professor Dato. It's really a pleasure to be here. Hi, everyone. Salam alaikum. So, this is a great, time to talk about cellular agriculture because, a lot has happened in the last, 10 to 15 years, but more so in the last, let's say, 3 years, there have been regulatory approvals. And a lot of interest from countries all over the world to adopt this technology. So the first regulatory approval was granted in Singapore back in 2021. This was awarded to a US company called Eat Just and their subsidiary Good Meat to produce cell-based chicken. And just recently, this summer, if I'm not mistaken, in June, the USDA and US FDA was the second country in the world to grant commercial licensing for 2 cell agriculture companies. The first one was Upside Foods, a US company specializing also in cell-based chicken. And it was also granted to the same company in Singapore, Good Meat. So, this is great news because, it's really a way for us to be able to assess the process and also to allow transparency to the production method of cellular agriculture related products. It's also a vote of confidence that other countries can start discussing and applying their own regulatory guidelines as well. However, there are many challenges, that face this industry, from the scalability and the affordability. So all aspects of the supply chain are yet to be refined and modified to be able to receive or achieve the best outcomes. So that's from all of the biomaterials, the cell lines that need to be used for this technology, and even the more rigorous, let's say, equipment and manufacturing processes of this of these type of products. Not to mention consumer acceptance and the final formulation and taste and flavor of these products. So it's a good step that we have commercial approvals. There's a lot of interest now, and hundreds of companies worldwide working on cellular agriculture and producing the most incredible constructs. From your typical, let's say, red meat, white meat, seafood. You also have companies that have pushed the boundaries to even recreate extinct species, like the mammoth meatball, which was debuted by an Australian company, Vow Foods, just this year as well. So there's a lot of promise, but of course, with any new technology, we need to tread lightly and carefully and make sure that when we do release any of these products, that we have the consumers' health and safety as the first priority. So yeah, I'm really excited to be on this panel today and to be able to share with you all some of the latest advancements and how this reflects and relates to halal regulations. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It was very insightful, Dr. Dalal. If I may ask very quickly, how does your work contribute actually to the development of cellular agriculture? There's a lot going on, but personally, in your space, how did you contribute to get a successful beginnings and the accolades for getting people to invest and also to continue to start off this very new initiative for food safety?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, all of us are contributors to this space. I mean, my role is, one small piece in the bigger, let's say, puzzle, but it's really about, identifying high growth startups, and empowering scientists to be able to, successfully commercialize their ideas and transform them into viable businesses. So, I've been, let's say, privileged to be able to work with, several let's say cell-based companies from around the world, in Asia Pacific and Europe, as my primary focus. And what we do, of course, is help them to present their technology, their companies in the best manner to be able to fundraise successfully, and also to be able to establish strategic partnerships with relevant stakeholders. So, for a lot of high growth startups, it's very important to be able to work with industry, work with large corporations, so that they will be able to support in building infrastructure, and also to be able to, form alliances with, as many companies as possible to be able to lobby towards regulatory bodies. And also, like, be able to, discuss and convey, let's say, the latest findings through industry reports and literature. So that's really, the type of work that I do at the moment, especially as a consultant. It's really about speaking to all stakeholders, from governments, corporates, and SMEs, to make sure that we can really push the needle forward.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Dalla. That's really very crucial, because the process of getting certification is not easy, it's long drawn, and certain legislations in certain countries, for example, in Malaysia, the Ministry of Health is very stringent, and obviously it was traveled across many other disciplines like science and technology as well. So wonderful. Thank you so much for the insightful answers. We have like 10 minutes for speakers, so I would like now to, before I do that, at the end of the third speaker, we will have a Q&A sessions. I have a lot of questions coming now at the webinar chat room. We will take that at the end of the three speakers. Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Dalal. My second speaker now is Dr. Yuki. Ready?
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Our second speaker is Dr. Yuki Hanyu, and he is the founder and CEO of Integriculture Incorporated in Japan. He works on a cellular agriculture platform. His company develops cell-based meat and technologies, and also efficiently produces it on a large scale. The company develops a B2B infrastructure that enables large and small entities of food, cosmetics, and materials sectors for cellular agriculture to come together, and you will provide them as well with the necessary hardware, which includes cell cultured serum, food grade basal medium, and other related services. Dr. Yuki is also the founder of the Shojin Meat Project, the world's citizen science nonprofit organization dedicated to advancing an open source inclusive future for cellular agriculture in Japan. So maybe after this, you can explain a little bit of what kind of work and resources required to actually get this into a successful venture. You also deliberate in science technology of cellular agriculture. I present to you Dr. Han Yu, the founder and CEO of Integrate Agriculture. You have the floor now.
Yeah, thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm the founder CEO of Integrate Culture Company, which is actually a spin-off company, spin-off startup originating from a citizen science community called the Shojin Meat Project. And it's actually the Shojin Meat Project launched in 2014. And at that time, it's partially because I didn't have any like personal connection that actually biotechnology or money. So I just started from somewhere I can start. And where I started was basically making cell cultured meat at home and basically telling how to do that to high school students so that they can also make meat at home. And that's how we started actually. But in 2017, I did it, and some actually high school student actually did it, and that got televised across Japan. And so that's sort of the time when the serious movement for cellular agriculture also started off in Japan, including the 2018 government funding on research of cellular agriculture, which happened like 3 or 4 years ahead of other countries. And Integrate Culture Company as a spin-off from there, our technology is unique in a way that it is cell type and species agnostic. So it can do fat cells, muscle cells, or even neural cells, and it can also do like bovine cells, like avian cells, or like seafood cells, or even human cells. So the service we offer is what we call cellular agriculture infrastructure. That would include basal medium and the hardware for cell culture, which can be used for anything. So our product, our demonstration products includes anything that involves cell culture. That will be cosmetics, obviously cell cultured meat, cell cultured seafood, and this will be a bit of a future thing. But it could also include cell cultured fur, cell cultured human organs for medical applications, or even cell cultured wood, or even that kind of things. So we basically offer this, in a way, a starter package to companies of any size of any industries. So far, we have been working with Nippon Ham, which is Japan's largest meat company, and Maruha Nichiro, which is either a global largest or second largest seafood company. It's also a Japanese company. We also have an experience in working with a cellular agriculture startup from Singapore. And another client is actually a small entity, Michelin star restaurant in Osaka, Japan. And the restaurant chef, he somehow doesn't distinguish between cooking from cell culture, saying that cooking is you do it at 120 degrees for 2 minutes, and cell culture, you do it at 37 degrees for 24 hours. So he ended up doing cell culture in his kitchen. And did actually make the cell cultured cuisine. Yeah, so that was a bit of a quick introduction on what we do, and for more down to the ground and for the very near future thing, as a demonstration for our cellular agriculture platform, we are developing cell cultured foie gras, and we did a demonstration this February. And what's unique about our demonstrated cell cultured foie gras was that it's made from basal medium only. So no growth factors, no serum, no insulin, no transferrin and such things. It just uses basal medium and our technology. So it's actually already regulatory compliant, at least in Japan. Now, and we are trying to apply the same methodology to other types of cells as well, like chicken muscle, beef is under development, so is seafood. And concurrently, we are also actively involved in rulemaking, the regulatory clearance and such things. As a founding member of APAC SCA, which is industry group of cell agriculture in Asia Pacific region. So that's an overview of how we studied and what we do.
Wonderful, thank you so much. You were actually focusing on the science and technology perspective of cellular agriculture. For those of us who are new, can you just give a very brief overview of what it entails to actually get to have clean meat, to be able to be palatable and accepted by the population as well?
Yeah. So for that to happen, first it has to be safe. That's the absolute bottom line. And obviously, what constitutes safe is then gets into a very scientific and detailed question. But probably one of the easiest to understand thing is we don't get bacterial contamination. And if bacterial contamination happens in bioreactor, the production process just stops there, regardless of what we want. So which means cell cultured meat will be completely without any, it will be completely sterile.
Mm.
Yeah, and then there's another thing it will be more of a regulatory issue, but the use of genetically modified material would be more of a regulatory issue, if not a scientific safety issue. So that can become relevant for growth factors, if any would go in, because those growth factors and serum components tends to be manufactured by genetically engineered plants or yeast bacteria or such thing. And the other is the cultured cell itself, because in one way of making the whole production process more efficient is the so-called immortalization, so that the cells can multiply beyond certain limits. Because quite often the cells can multiply up to about 30 to 50 times, but stops multiplying after that. But by immortalizing the cell, it can go indefinitely. But it can involve genetic engineering, and that's become a bit of a regulatory matter. And with all these technology, safety and the immortalization or whatever, then the next is the actual scalability and the cost of production. So how much does the cell cultured meat cost? That's currently the biggest issue in the industry. As so many investors has flocked to something that looks tasty but can be produced only on very small scale at the laboratory, and ending up to face the fact that it cannot be scaled. And that's something that the entire cellular agriculture industry should be very careful about, also on the investor side. And that's basically where the biggest technological hurdle is at the moment.
Okay, thank you. Just one little question here. We're just looking at the role of stem cells in production of cellular agriculture. And we're talking about both upstream and downstream processes. In which of the process, in your opinion, is critical to make sure that there is adequate safety data?
I couldn't catch the last bit. Adequate
safety data.
Adequate safety data. Yeah. Yes. So I would say the downstream will be more relevant, because that's basically where the actual product is, and the most. currently the regulation for cellular agriculture products is is not by category basis, but by product basis. So so it will be safety is actually tested on the downstream processes, and it also depends on the definition of upstream, how far it includes. But at least for whatever is cleared for sale in Singapore and the US. It's actually cleared for chicken sales, and anything that involves any upstream risks, such as the risk of BSE or CJD or something on bovine sales, it's still an active area of discussion. But that's I would say, an exceptional case, and more discussions actually done on the downstream.
Thank you, Dr. Yuki. That's a very comprehensive sharing of the technology involved in cellular agriculture. I'm going to now introduce our speaker, Dr. Muhammad Nakib Hamdan. Dr. Muhammad Nakib is an academic, a senior lecturer in the Academy of Islamic Civilization, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities, UTM, or University of Technology Malaysia. He focuses mainly in bridging the gap between Islamic research and the advancements in science and technology, particularly in respect of food industries. Dr. Nakib is also exploring Islamic perspectives of artificial intelligence and its implications in Muslims. He started his research on cultured meat actually instigated by Professor Mark Frost of Maastricht University. In 2019, he was invited by the professor to the university to present his insights on the Islamic perspective of the cultured meat. Dr. Nakib received bachelor's degree in Sharia from Al-Azhar University in Egypt and a master's degree and PhD from University of Malaya in Kuala Lumpur. I would now like to call upon Dr. Muhammad Nakib Hamdan to be highlighting issues pertaining to halal of, the halal Toiban perspective of cellular agriculture. Dr. Nakib, you have the floor now.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. Okay, so when we discuss about cultivated meat or cultured meat, as a Muslim, one of the main question is about the halal status. Is it halal or is it allowed for a Muslim to consume or to eat cultivated meat? So if it's not halal, so what is the process? What kind of the technical that we can use to make it halal? Or what is, if it is halal, is it safe or is it tayyiban, for example? Okay, so when we discuss about the halal consideration, I divide into three phases based on the cultivated meat production: the upstream, midstream, and the downstream. Okay, so when we discuss about at the first phase, at the upstream or before production, the source of stem cell used for the cultivated meat production must be extracted from the halal sources. So this is where the question raised. So to obtain the halal sources of stem cell, is it necessary for the animal to be slaughtered or not? Okay, based on my research, because currently there is no standard resolution from the authority, the biggest authority, which is the OIC, for example, on the halal status of cultivated meat. But from the independent opinion from the a lot of Muslim scholars, majority of them, I see that they conclude that the cultivated meat must be obtained, harvested from the slaughtered animal, based on the hadith mentioned by Prophet Muhammad SAW, "Ma kutina minal bahimati wa hiya hayyah fa hiya maitah." Translated as every part of animal body that cut off while the animal is still alive, the part is considered as carcass and cannot be eaten. So when and the biopsy is one of the definition of cut off in the hadith. So this is why a majority of Muslim scholars opine that it is necessary for the stem cell obtained from the slaughtered animal. But there are some very minority opinion that opine the biopsy procedure is different from the procedure mentioned in the hadith, and they conclude that it is not necessary to be slaughtered. But I think it is better for for example, the company that want to focus on the halal market, start their production with the halal slaughtered animal, so that if it is necessary for the slaughter, then the company don't have any problem after that. Okay, and then the second part is okay. But when we discuss about the sources of stem cell, other than that, there are some stem cell that can be obtained from that not necessary for the animal to be slaughtered. For example, if the stem cell extracted from the egg, the chicken egg, or the stem cell obtained from the marine animal. So this is where the scientists or the cultured meat produced with these two type of stem cell is considered as halal from the sources perspective. But yeah, currently there are a lot of new technology introduced by the scientists. Some of the research of the new stem cell sources that for me, I think I need some more time to make a research. For example, stem cell from the non-edible part of animal, or genetic modified stem cell, synthetic animal embryo that not from the eggs or sperm fertilization, for example. So this is this kind of new stem cell sources. For me, I need some more time to further research. Okay, the second phase is the midstream. So it is essential for company to ensure that there is no non-halal element involved during the production. The serum, the enzyme, the growth factor, nutrients, vitamins, all that kind of support system, the environment for the stem cell to grow need to be from the halal animal, halal sources. But recently, there are some discussion about the synthetic growth factor, from the we call it as synthetic porcine DNA, right, Dr. Yuki, from the yeast. Okay, so when Dr. Yuki asked me about this new growth factor, it just so the growth factor is not produced. The growth factor produced by the yeast, and the yeast was synthetically modified, DNA modified, according and to mimic the porcine, right?
Yes, so
okay.
this basically porcine DNA, that the growth factor section is taken and introduced into yeast DNA, and so that the yeast produces porcine growth factors.
So it is either you take the porcine DNA, original porcine DNA, and you put in the yeast, or you synthesize from the yeast, and you don't take the DNA from the yeast, from the DNA porcine DNA, but you manage to synthetically manage the yeast, the original yeast, and mimic the porcine DNA. It is either two way, right?
Yeah, so taking DNA from porcine source is one, but another is reading the porcine DNA, making the digital data, and make the synthesized DNA according to the digital data, and put into yeast or use somewhere.
Okay, so when you ask about this, it just remind me about one of the discussion by the early Muslim scholars that they discuss about if there is some condition, for example, the human parents, the baby born is on the baby born from the human parent, but the baby born is on the animal condition. So that baby, the human baby born on the animal physical, is it considered as human or animal or otherwise? So that kind of discussion, even though it is impossible scientifically, for example, but maybe some of the discussion may fit in this kind of topic. So you are using non-porcine to generate a porcine growth factor, right? So
yes, although the definition of the porcine growth factor is also very tricky, because especially when it comes to porcine DNA sequences, because it's like 99 point something % same from bovine or human.
So when I doing a research about that in the early Muslim scholars about it, so there are two type of opinion. Some Muslim scholars opine that we will the status of the baby will depend on the parent. So if the parent is animal, even though the baby born is in the human physical, so it is considered as animal, or vice versa. And the second opinion stated that we will the status will depend on the final condition, final physical baby born. So we don't depend, the status is not depend on the parents, but depend on the final condition of the baby born. So the discussion is a bit complicated, but from this discussion, I don't say that I cannot give a final conclusion, because for me, I still need to understand about how the process of this kind of new technology to produce a growth factor. But I just find out there are some similarities that may Muslim scholars use to discuss about this kind of topic. Is it halal or not? Okay, so the third phase or the last phase is for the downstream. As mentioned by Dr. Yuki, this is one of the most important discussion. So as a consumer generally, or maybe a Muslim consumer, other than halal, we also discuss about the safety or the tayyiban aspect. So the consumer also will discuss about for example, the transparency of the technology, and the culture, for example, and the ethical perspective, the environmental effect of this technology to help the food security, for example. So this kind of information that is very important for a consumer generally and for a Muslim consumer. And one of the most, for me, the most important part is how do you advertise the product to the Muslim consumer, for example. So if the company want to say that or to want to sell the product, the halal cultivated meat to the Muslim consumer, for example, is it the advertising will be the same to a general consumer, or is there any more specific promotion, for example, for the Muslim consumer? So this kind of research need to be done. Okay, so I think that's all from me from the halal perspective. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Nakib. I have a question for you, Dr. Nakib. As I understand, you said earlier that if the source of DNA is obtained from a live animal, it's non-halal. If the source, talking about upstream, if the source is obtained from sacrifice of dead animal, is considered as halal. So what will be actually the fundamentals of making sure that in cellular agriculture that you underpin the concerns at the upstream level, which means do you get the stem cells from a live animal, or you get the stem cells from a sacrificed animal, for example? Because I'm talking perspective of of live animals because I do a lot of work with stem cells, and the stem cells I use is for humans and humans with chronic diseases, for example. Yeah. We have not been approached in terms of whether it's halal or not because it's medically used. And it's like in terms of darurat, for example, is allowable because other alternative to treat the particular condition.
Okay, so okay, pardon?
Yes. Explain further the processes that has to be put in place at the upstream level when you actually get the source of the DNA. Is it going to be perspective as simple as whether the host is dead or is still alive?
Okay, so
which is the best approach to make sure that in the processes it allows to be given, halal certification to be given.
Okay, so for a company to receive a halal certification, regularly they need to declare everything. So if they are using the halal stem cell, and so they need to prove they are using, or they are use the animal from the halal meat, for example. So and the regulator, the halal bodies will inspect that kind of requirement. And so it is very important because once the product is there, you just cannot differentiate whether the product from the slaughtered animal or not, because the final product is the same. It's very similar with the current meat, for example. So if the product is there, you just very hard to differentiate between the slaughtered and non-slaughtered meat. But it is important for the company or the startup to declare where is their sources of the meat that they use to obtain to harvest the stem cell. But in terms of a requirement or the regulation, so I think we need to find the halal bodies need to have the fatwa first, the halal status first. So what is the halal status, official halal status from the fatwa bodies, and then after that JAKIM or any type of halal bodies can regulate their requirement for the halal cultivated meat, for example.
Understand. So if I may ask, in terms of the halal certification process in different authorities in the Southeast Asia and also APAC as well as GCC, what is really happening now?
For the cultivated meat?
Yes.
I don't think in terms of halal requirement or halal certification requirement, there is a discussion about it because we are still waiting for the fatwa as a general. So when the fatwa is there, the official statement about the halal status is there, then after that the fatwa, the halal bodies will manage to introduce their requirement.
I see. As I understand it, in terms of fatwa in Malaysia, correct me if I'm wrong, Dr. Nakib, in Malaysia, each state can have a different fatwa in terms of halal. Yeah. So in Malaysia, is it going to be on a general, on a national level? Or is it going to be given the purview for the different states?
Okay, as far as I know, currently JAKIM and MUIS, JAKIM Malaysia and MUIS in Singapore, they are at their final stage of introducing their official statement or halal statement about the halal status of cultivated meat.
Let's see. And in other countries in South Asia, in APAC region and GCC, do you have any news in terms of the timelines and the processes they're at right now for certification of clean halal meat?
Maybe for GCC, I think Dr. Dara can share about it.
Yeah, sure. Dr. Dara, please jump in. What's your opinion on the status of halal certification in GCC countries?
So right now there have been no, let's say, official announcements from any, let's say, halal regulatory authority on the state of cellular agriculture in the GCC. But what we have been noticing is in terms of the investment ecosystem, there are many, let's say, investment authorities and firms that have been heavily backing some of the biggest cellular agriculture companies worldwide. So I can give you an example of some of these investments, and this can also give us an idea of, let's say, the type of lobbying and support that we're seeing from the region. So in Saudi Arabia, you have PIF, the Public Investment Fund, which is government backed, has been heavily investing in cellular agriculture and also creating symposiums, conferences to attract international cellular agriculture companies to disclose their findings and also find a way for them to anchor in Saudi Arabia through either research collaboration or even setting up their own pilot plant facilities. Similarly, in the UAE and Qatar, you have big sort of partnerships with both Israeli firms and US firms to support funding, but also support companies with establishing cellular agriculture facilities. So the first country, I would say, in the GCC that was actively engaged in cellular agriculture investing was Qatar. This was back in 2021, where they led Good Meat's Series A round. So that means that they were the lead investor, investing the majority of the fund, of that funding round. So with that, they did make announcements back in 2021 that they were in process of developing a pilot plant facility and also in collaboration with the Qatar Free Trade Zone to be able to export that product around the region, if not the world. Since that announcement back in 2021, it has been quite quiet. So we don't know what's the latest update. But we can see next door in the UAE, there have been private investments in cell ag companies. There's one called Stakeholder Foods, which is specialized in more of the processing methodologies, so developing 3D printers, and also that has a combination of fat and muscular tissue cell lines to develop let's say all types of constructs from meat and seafood. So they recently announced a joint venture partnership with an undisclosed UAE partner. So all of these, let's say, indicators, what I want to convey to the audience is that things are moving quite quickly in the GCC when it comes to investments in cellular agriculture, and also partnership when it comes to joint venture projects to develop these large-scale facilities to actually produce the products and hopefully see them enter the market and receive the regulatory approvals accordingly. So these are things that are happening in silos across each country. I would say there hasn't been any consensus across the GCC in terms of, let's say, a unified response of how they're dealing with the situation, what the expected timeline is projected to be for this technology. But what we can see is that it's in alignment with each of the Gulf countries' food security initiatives. So they want to ensure that they're able to produce and secure their own protein production through cellular agriculture. But they're also diversifying this in many ways with investments in aquaculture industry, fish farms and and poultry and even let's say dairy farms that have been popping up across the region. So this is very, very positive. What I would say in terms of regulatory affairs, there needs to be a lot of work. A lot of work needs to be done to ensure that there will be compliance across the GCC, so that we do have set standards. But our predictions at the moment is that many of these countries and companies operating within the GCC countries are going to be adhering to the US and Singapore Food Safety Authority guidelines. There hasn't been any discussion yet on the halal let's say guidelines or the halal certifications, but we do know that based on some of the innovative products like GM, genetically modified foods that have entered the GCC, usually if things are approved in the US and the EU, we tend to absorb them into the GCC quite quickly. So just to kind of wrap it up for our audience, We do anticipate that these products will be out in the market soon. The production method is still something that needs to be refined because we're not able to produce enough quantities at the right price point. Currently, the production, like say the estimated production costs for cultivated chicken can range anywhere from 75 to 200 US dollars per kilo. And this is too expensive, especially as a mainstream commercial product, like, like a piece of chicken or a cutlet or any kind of, let's say, chicken item, especially if we're going to compare it to the animal production prices and commercial prices. So that needs to be resolved. But positively, if there's more funding, more collaboration, joint venture partnership, and amazing work being done by scientists around the world, especially Dr. Yuki, then I'm sure we will be able to see the price points go down and hopefully have these products out within the next 5 to 10 years.
I see. That's very interesting as well. In terms of the development in the GCC countries, but in countries in Southeast Asia, for example, we're just starting to understand the science of cellular agriculture. And I think in terms of technology as well, though we have the capacity to develop that, to achieve economies of scale, for example, for the startups, for the medium-sized companies as well, is going to be quite a challenge. In Malaysia in particular, just to share, I mean, halal perspective is one, but the safety and the long-term effect of, they call it artificial meat because it's not from the actual, when you raise cattle, farming cattle, you actually expose to nature, and they develop certain resistance. It's encoded in the genes and the DNA of the meat, etc. And also there are concerns about BSE, obviously. Those are the issues in particular that if a company, a startup in Malaysia wants to achieve economies of scale, will have to be able to pacify and give the correct answers. And as you say, there needs to be a network of researchers to do this. I think, and Dr. Yuki has explained his kind of technology, but if at all, technology sharing is also very important perspective in countries that want to, or companies that want to actually invest themselves in cellular agriculture. So Dr. Dalal, if you were to think about it, I'm sure you have the answer already at hand. What do you think will be the impetus to stimulate this new yet important industry to be on a mantle where it's going to be successful?
Yeah, that's a big question to unpack. I mean, yes, there has to be a combination of capital, partnership, the sort of geopolitical need as well for this product to enter the market. So, as I mentioned earlier, food security has been one of the largest factors in driving this technology forward and putting it on sort of the government's high agenda of securing protein supply, especially for countries with limited arable land or limited land for agriculture in general. So, when we have enough government support that is, sort of driving policies and also creating an ecosystem that is conducive for investors to, to fundraise, raise funds to deploy them into these high growth startups. At the same time, being able to create an ecosystem that allows for international collaboration. So, and at the same time, supporting local institutions to collaborate so that no one is left behind, so that we can also modify, localize, these type of products for each region. And, as we're rightfully discussing today, halal regulations is a localized approach for the OIC. But for other countries, there might be other certifications or guidelines that will be relevant. So each region has to be actively involved. It's super important. And that's why we have, for instance, thought leaders in theology like Dr. Muhammad, who's really sort of driving the needle and putting a different perspective forward. The theology, the social sciences, we need to have so many different, let's say, expertise to really drive this forward. It's of course starting with the scientists, the technologists, the engineers, as well as the sort of the legal and regulatory framework experts. But we shouldn't leave out, social sciences. That's really, really important for us to understand the ethical concerns, to be able to also draw the line with what can be done scientifically. And we've seen this, of course, with genetically modified, let's say organisms or techniques, be it CRISPR or others. How we have, for instance, in this day and age, regulations on, let's say, editing the human genome. And creating, let's say, designer babies or other types of, technological advancements, but rather limiting genetically modified organisms towards mitigating illness and disease. That's what's approved. So that's where we need to have more, let's say, ethical guidelines with regards to cellular agriculture. What is, appropriate? And the thing is as well, like this industry has also, stemmed from the lack of ethics in animal agriculture husbandry. Especially when it comes to mass slaughter of animals. This is something where a lot of theologians and a lot of consumers are also wondering, is it halal to, to slaughter animals at this scale? To slaughter millions of animals every day, to feed, a growing population. And also, are we able to adhere to all kinds of ethics with animal raising? And slaughter when we have sort of a mass factory production of animal meat and seafood as well. So this is where we really need to work closely together. And yes, we should work quickly, but at the same time take the time to really consider every single aspect of this production process. I'll also stress another important factor, which is cost. At the end of the day, if we want this technology to become mainstream, to become widely available, we have to reduce the cost. At the moment, it's just way too expensive. And, I haven't even mentioned the type of biomaterials and processes to even manufacture this process. Currently, sort of the liquid of life, the fetal bovine serum or even serum-free media, which is used to grow the cells, is one of the highest, let's say, price pain points. Right now, per liter, a commercially grade serum can cost around $2,000 per liter. It is getting lower. There are, let's say, cheaper alternatives that are becoming available. And you have countries like Singapore that have commercially approved serum-free alternatives for the cultivated meat sector or cultivated sector. But as soon as we can reduce the price points in all aspects of the production method, then we'll be able to appeal to the masses, appeal to consumers. I haven't even mentioned the energy costs required to produce this type of product, the waste outputs that need to be mitigated and controlled. Like any system, we have to also consider closed-looped systems in the production process. And with all kinds of agricultural systems, we do have closed loop, rheologic or waste valorization streams to make sure that nothing is wasted. Every waste is seen as a resource as well. So, there's a lot of work to be done. But, definitely I would say we're on the right track. And especially, at this conference, seeing the sort of attention of the audience, the participation, and all of the experts from all over the world coming together to discuss this is truly a testament to this.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dr. Dalal. So after having explained to us all the intricacies and requirements that we need to put in place to have a successful cellular agriculture, as a ballpark, if a company wants to start investing, in terms of the numbers required to achieve economies of scale, do you think that's something that startups should consider? Because right now there's so many more questions than answers. The main one being the safety, obviously, putting aside the concerns in terms of cost for economies of scale, the technology, etc. The safety issue as well is fundamental, I think, for all people to accept cellular agriculture.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of economies of scale, and I'll let maybe Dr. Yuki also take this one, because you are a company that is fundraising, and and right now, especially with I guess like rising inflation, the U.S. banking crisis, and a lot of things that have been happening on sort of the global financial scale, it has become more difficult to fundraise. And this is something where many of us are quite concerned on the viability of startups. We want to ensure that they survive to continue the great work that they're doing. What I would say is the current, let's say, investment schemes for funding these startups have been driven by venture capital. venture capitalists, of course, are limited in terms of the resources that they can deploy, and of course have obligations to their shareholders. But typically, when it comes to investing in startups through the venture capital model, they've preferred to invest more in the technology in terms of licensing and patents, rather than in the capex, or the capital expenditure, and let's say the large infrastructure that is required for this technology. However, when we look at cellular agriculture startups, right now we are at that pain point, or let's say we are at that point where we need to start investing in infrastructure. We need to develop as much infrastructure as possible to be able to run trials, life cycle assessments. So, is it the role of the venture capitalist to fund? I don't think so, because it's not built into their fund structure model. However, we can leverage on corporate venture capital or corporate investors, government investors, to support that capital expenditure and kind of building these joint and shared facilities. We've seen this happen in countries like Singapore and the US. With, for instance, the role of ADM and other sort of large institutions that have created these joint venture pilot plants facilities for cell agricultural companies to utilize and conduct more research and trials. So that's what I would recommend. But yeah, Dr. Yuki, please chime in if there's anything that we can do as well from your perspective.
So on top of that, as the funding source, the government grant is also helpful. But what cellular agriculture and especially cell cultured meat industry completely lacked was the accumulation of basic research. So those fundamental, so basically the startups ended up doing all the fundamental research for production of cell cultured meat and wider cellular agriculture as well. So if there's more open source academic research available in the field of cellular agriculture, that would be a huge positive for the entire industry, as there's too much of silo and duplicate effort ongoing. And this is especially important when it comes to the to food safety. And also any if there as an extension of like open source materials, it will be a huge plus if there's an open repository of cell lines.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I'm going to move on to the Q&A section here. There is a question from Muhammad Nasruddin M. He's asking, what is the driving force behind this technology? Dr. Yuki, this is directed to you, I believe. Is it a reaction to possible food security crisis due to climate change? How would this be better than current challenges in global agriculture production and distribution practices?
Yeah, so the driving force for cell agriculture really depends on countries. If you're talking about national level, well, I started my company because they are based in science fiction. So when it comes to personal things, it can be varied. But some people go from animal welfare argument. But when it comes to national level, it's either national food security or the sustainability. Sorry, what was the second part of the question?
The second part of the question, let me just move up because it's here. Current challenges. Current challenges.
Current challenges. So there are three biggest critical things. One is the environmental footprint of basal medium, which also relates to the cost. There was a recent non-peer-reviewed paper from UC Davis about the environmental footprint of cell cultured meat being 25 times bigger than conventional beef, as long as biopharma grade chemically defined basal medium is used. So that's something that has to be changed. And the second is the serum components, including growth factors, which tends to be just ridiculously expensive. Like TGF-beta costs $80 million per gram, and we can't use that kind of thing in food. So there must be a breakthrough there. And the third part is probably that's that's the one that takes time and lots of time for engineers, which is the development of food-grade, food-specified bioreactor, which would have a different design from biopharma-grade bioreactor that we used to use for like vaccine production. And this one, which involves a lot of metals and actual heavy machines, I think this is where the R&D takes the longest time and money.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Yuki. I just want to ask you about the usage of serum-free media. Do you think it's going to impact in terms of the quality of the final product?
Yeah, the serum-free media can be added with extra nutrients like DHA, EPA, or the kind of fish oil, or it can be like pre-flavored even. So it will impact the quality or better say the feature of the final product. And that's, I think, where added value can be also be made.
Okay. Dr. Nakib, may I ask you, in terms of the halal, the connotation of the halal certification, do you think within the halal certification going to imbibe the questions of safety as well? Can a company producing through cellular agriculture meat, for example, with a halal certification be enough to actually pacify the consumers that it's safe to consume and there's no long-term effect?
I think in terms of safety, the halal bodies will follow the government where the halal bodies established regularly. Is like that.
I see. So, I mean, in terms of halal certification, the body would need to be looking at all the processes upstream, midstream, and downstream, I believe. They have to make sure that there is no contamination in terms of the processes leading to the final product. When they're going through those processes, will there be an element, because this is a new thing entirely, do you think the fatwa will put in an element of safety as well, making sure that long-term effects of using stem cells from an animal, producing the byproduct, etc., will it have a detrimental effect on the genetic component of the human long-term? Because it is not considered not quite a natural product in itself.
Yeah, regularly they will put that as a general requirement for the halal certification. So they need to prove the product is safe and what is the SOP and so on. And to note that type of we call it as the new technology. Is cultivated meat? We can call it as a meat, or it will stand forever as a cultured meat. So when we look back then in the history, for example, when the first IVF, in vitro baby or test tube baby introduced.
Yes.
So the baby known or called as test tube baby, but now there is no one called the baby using this kind of technology known as test tube baby. No more. So we call it as a baby. So I don't know, maybe after 20 or 30 years, there is no differentiate between meat or cultivated meat, for example.
Okay, so I'm just going to actually ask this question for all three speakers. Do you think that cellular agriculture will be able to solve the food security issue? Number one. Number two, what do you think of actually having various stakeholder engagements within countries, especially those who are charged to be looking at safety in patients, like the Ministry of Health, and obviously to get grants from the Ministry of Science of every country as well, to be part and parcel of the team to be discussing this? Because as I see right now, this push is coming from the commercial side. It's not coming from, correct me if I'm wrong, it's not coming from the federal side, which is the ministries of each of the governments. And if so, what are the steps you think we need to be putting in place to be able to have that kind of stakeholder engagement to make sure that cellular agriculture is the way forward and to achieve fundamentally what we need as food security with the increasing number of population in the world?
Shall I start? Yeah. So first, what we really need to do is to get the technology right first, because as of now, the products sold in Singapore and the US, it just doesn't solve the problems that cell cultured meat is promised to solve. So once that is solved, then we can talk about more real things. But obviously, the food safety thing can go in parallel, but otherwise, the technology must be matured first.
Okay, so technology first. So in your perspective, what is the simplest technology thing that will work, that will not be a detriment in terms of the financial situation of any party that wants to involve itself in cellular agriculture?
Yeah, so the first thing that makes sense is actually it could even be cell cultured cosmetics, really. So the industry could start from there, and then the price point comes down. The food safety discussions catch up. And then when it comes to food, things like cell cultured foie gras or cell cultured eel fat, that kind of high added value, high unit price food products would come online first, and then gradually move toward less expensive, but probably still expensive from day-to-day standard, but it expands to other types of meat products.
I see. You know, Dr. Yuki, in the manufacturing processes, is there a place where you have put steps to ensure that there is durability in terms of the quality of the product? For example, if you buy raw meat, if you don't consume it the same day, you have to freeze it. So if you have a product that is with clean technology, cellular agriculture, do you need to undergo those kinds of restrictions in terms of storage to ensure that the quality is maintained and there is no contamination per se?
Sorry, the line was a little bit choppy, but as far as I can catch, it really depends on the exact product you'll be talking about, because cellular agriculture product is can be like anything, and even when it's limited to just cell cultured meat, then it could range anything from like foie gras to cell cultured fat to just the muscle cells. So what defines the quality would happen in different part of the production process.
So in terms of technology, Dr. Yuki, what will be the key technology that we want to portray in terms of startups that want to be involved in cellular agriculture? What will be the points that they will have to put in place in their decision making to make sure that their venture is successful and they're able to upscale? Maybe Dr. Dalal can also chip in your answers and thoughts on this.
Yeah, I would say scalability, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, so is the technology fundamentally scalable or not?
Yeah.
Okay. Not how tasty the laboratory scale demonstration is.
Product scalability. Okay. Do you know of how many techniques upstream can produce scalability in terms of the product perspective?
How many? What's technology, or like what's the question?
What is the technology that can assure scalability? Is there any that you can think at the top of your head?
Yeah, so there has been like a different research is done, but seems like the conclusion is basically the hardware to do large scale cell culture. Okay. That could be media regeneration, continuous production, so more on the product bioreactor side.
I see. Okay, understand. Dr. Dalal, if there is a company that is starting fresh, for example, you did say that there must be the ability to get some funding, and you said that investors will not be involved in certain parts of the funding. So how does one start to do this if one is really committed to spearhead cellular agriculture in a country that has not started at all, be the pioneer? What will be the steps they need to consider in order to make their efforts successful and be well received?
Oh, yeah. Okay, well, this is the thing. So if we look back, 3 to 5 years ago, the investment appetite for cellular agriculture, or more broadly, let's say the alternative protein sector, was quite active in the sense that they were happy to back sort of the first movers of each country. And this is something that we noticed with, let's say, notable investments in sort of the first cell-based companies in China, Japan, India. So I would say that current mindset is gone, because with investors, right now they're more, the technology isn't as novel as it was back then. Now there are hundreds of companies worldwide producing all kinds of technologies throughout the sort of the complete production cycle of cellular agriculture, and as we discussed, producing everything and anything you can think of. So right now, my advice for someone who is starting off, is to do a couple of things. So as Dr. Yuki mentioned, it's important to be able to leverage all types of government and research grants to begin with. This is a way for you to validate, what you're doing, to be able to, ensure that you can produce something with impact that maybe is as well relevant for your locality. So it might be, again, utilizing specific types of ingredients for, biomaterials, or even the media or the reagents for this ecosystem, or it might be towards the software, big data analytics, or other types of aspects towards the life cycle assessment of the cell cultivation method. So the first step would be get government grants, get funding, be able to produce something that adds value to the complete supply chain of cellular agriculture. So you need to find something that hasn't been done before within that process, or something that you can do more effectively, efficiently, and more cost effectively. So as soon as you have that, you can then utilize the government grants to apply for a patent, right? To be able to protect and license your technology. Once you're at that stage, it's then easier to go and fundraise from either local investors or international investors. And when it comes to setting up your company, of course, depending on the region that you're in, investors will often advise you whether or not to set up an entity in a more sort of financial active market. That might be, for instance, Singapore, it might be the US, it might be in Europe, or it might even be in the UAE. So that's typically like the next step that you would have to follow. From there, you would be able to then fundraise even further and find a way to start, I would say, start commercializing your products. So as Dr. Yuki said, rightfully, a lot of companies, what they're doing at the moment, because there aren't that many regulatory approvals towards the food application of cellular agriculture. So rather, they would focus on customers that are from the biotech industry, pharmaceutical industry, or even go into lifestyle and cosmetics instead, where the regulatory process is a lot more lenient. So as soon as you can become commercially viable, you have a licensed, patented technology, that would be, let's say, the goal, the primary goal for any new company starting up. Once you've reached that stage, trust me, it will be very, very easy to get all kinds of interest from either government or corporate entities. And from there, you can start having further discussions and dialogues with onto the government and regulatory level, so that you can really represent your territory as one of the leading, cell agriculture companies at that point.
Dr. Dalal, as for me, I just was wondering whether has there been any study at all to actually be looking at the, if you compare the current animal and plant husbandry, production to produce protein for consumption of the global population versus cellular agriculture, has there been like a head-to-head comparison to show that the latter, which is cellular agriculture, is the way forward for food security? And will it actually be able to answer the issues, the concerns about climate change due to animal husbandry?
Well, I mean, it's subjective. I would say like it's important to be able to survey as many studies as possible. But at the same time, I think when we compare, let's say, the most intensive agricultural processes in terms of their methane emissions and their impact on climate change, there is a consensus that, let's say, the bovine sector, so any kind of cattle industry, is the most heavily emitting. So that's something we can all agree on. When it comes to cellular agriculture, as Dr. Yuki also highlighted, there are a lot of processes that need to be refined and modified, especially if we're comparing, let's say all of the upstream processes and how each, let's say, biomaterial or let's say ingredient is manufactured and what their, let's say, individual environmental footprint is. So right now, there isn't any consensus in terms of like apples to apple, if it's more or less, if it is less, let's say, has less of an impact on climate change. But what we can say is that we should strive towards mitigating, let's say some of the most heavily intensive industries, be it the cattle industry, be it also rice. Nobody talks about rice. Rice is one of the biggest methane emitters and is consumed quite heavily in the OIC as well. So there are a lot of different agricultural products that need to be revised and reformed in our diet, and maybe and also that we should become less heavily reliant on. So it's important to strive towards carbon neutrality in any industry, any sector, but it shouldn't be the only thing. Of course, we should look at all aspects, from the animal ethics towards food security in terms of can we produce food locally and in countries that don't have access to either like animals or arable land or agricultural land. So hopefully that answers your question, but I think things are not so black and white. We really need to look at things more holistically.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Dalal. They did answer my question. I'm just thinking in terms of long term, for all three speakers, for example, when do you think that cellular agriculture is going to be accepted? I know we have fundamentally discussed all the concerns, and that seems to be a very major issue in many areas of the world. But logically speaking, based on your obviously experience and your take of where the countries are in terms of accepting cellular agriculture, how many years do you think it would take, if you can put in place all the things that you mentioned, Dr. Dalal, for the world to accept cellular agriculture as the agriculture practices for us to adopt entirely, or to start developing entirely and adopt it as well?
So I made this prediction, I would say, around 5 years ago. When this technology just emerged, and what I told everyone is, I said, based on what we've seen in other industries and any adoption of new technology, most likely it will take 10 to 15 years to see these products in some of the, let's say, premium outlets. So it's going to be available commercially, but it's still not going to be affordable. But if we give it maybe 20 to 30 years, that's when we're going to start seeing more of these commercially viable, affordable products, and maybe even cheaper than the animal equivalents. It could be faster. It could be faster for individual countries. That's what I would say, especially countries that are investing heavily in infrastructure and are moving forward in terms of regulatory policy. If I'm to look at the OIC, what we are noticing in terms of the advancements and interest from investors and governments, my personal prediction would be countries like the UAE would probably be the pioneers in approving these products, just because they have been doing a lot of work in supporting this growth. I would also say, notably highlight Malaysia, because you have interest from being so close to Singapore in this technology. So they've been sort of, watching the advancements progressively. But at the same time, this year, you had the announcement of the first pledge to build the first halal certified cellular agriculture facility. And this is by Cell Agritech. So I would say that there will probably, from the OIC, we would have the UAE and the GCC, and within Asia Pacific or Southeast Asia, it would be Malaysia.
Thank you. Dr. Yuki, in terms of fundamentals, palatability, I think that's also very important. What do you think, because obviously different countries' perspective, different population, they prefer certain kind of palatability. What do you think in terms of the technology-wise, when a startup wants to actually involve themselves in this, that they should be considering, the factors they should be considering in terms of the local flavor?
So the question is like, when would this localization and like local products would start to happen?
Yes.
So the question.
Yes, that's the question.
So from species level, it's already happening, because things like beef, chicken, and pork, they are globally consumed, but at the, but at the same time, they are not the most expensive type of meat. And take example in Japan, eels is actually it's consumed mostly in Japan, but it's also a high unit price meat. And that kind of thing happen in different countries as well. So, like for example, in Australia, kangaroo meat could be it's actually more expensive than chicken meat. So this kind of local produce could actually happen before the mainstream. And that probably happens around, like Dr. Dalal has mentioned. First, it needs to get the texture and the flavor right. So it will probably become like mainstream in like 15 to 20 years time. And before that, some premium ones could come online first.
Okay, that's fair. Maybe perspective for Malaysia. Dr. Naki, what do you think in terms of the Malaysian-made cellular agriculture produced meat, for example, clean meat, in terms of the steps of a startup when they want to start, and we've already launched the halal the halal hub. What are the steps that's important, and in your perspective, the timelines that startup, what is doing it first time right, will be able to be recognized as a platform to produce the clean meat technology via cellular agriculture?
Okay, for Malaysia, I think there is, as far as I know, there is only one startup or company that doing production for the cell-based meat, which is Cell Agri. So they have announced their production plan in in this year. I think in March, if I'm not mistaken. And they claim that they will serve their first product in 2025. So and the Cell Agri, they have engagement with the government, MOH, Ministry of Health, DVS, JAKIM, even JAKIM. And I think in terms of food security, for example, is Malaysia find out that cell-based meat is one of the main important research for to cater the food security, for example. So each country may face the different type of food security. It's either to focus on rice, for example, as basic food, or a meat or fish, for example. So it may be different. But I think Malaysia will start to, the government will also start to make a move for this research towards the new novel food. And in terms of food safety, I think during the conference, one of the DVS speakers, they said that they will follow the codex as a reference for the food safety. So I think in terms of food safety, maybe halal bodies will follow the codex also.
Yeah, codex is one that's fundamental in the Ministry of Health. They follow that very closely. It's past 3 o'clock. I mean, it's past 4 o'clock. It's 4:21. I think we've got a very fruitful discussion, and I did try to take some of the questions as I see in the webinar chat. But you know, cellular agriculture is a huge topic, and very rightly, our three speakers has highlighted that there's so many issues pertaining to the steps to obtain the final product via cellular agriculture has to be looked at, and there are various different steps in different countries. Some are more ahead than others, some are more interested than others. There's also the financial issues. Obviously, it has to be, it's now being pushed by the commercial sector, but I strongly feel that the government sector has to play a very active role as well. Because ultimately, if you have a product that's ready, that's scalable, with the technology that's scalable, that's palatable, if the federal government do not believe its authenticity, for example, its safety, then that's also a non-starter. So in conclusion, actually, I would like to thank WIEF for having this global discourse on cellular agriculture. I, for one, has not been able to dwell myself fully into this technology. As I said just now, I am in stem cell technology, but I see that it is a way forward. Having said that, there are so many other steps we have to fulfill, and we can't really discuss everything because each of the points that all the speakers has alluded to us have got sub points and minor points that we need to consider. It's not a simple technology. It is one of the technology that has been brought forward to, at the moment, look at our challenges in terms of issues of food security, obviously climate change, etc., the global population requirement. And I think it should be encouraged. Having said that, global discourses like this is important because it can form an impetus of a team of people who will be interested to carry this forth. And we have our experts over here. We have Dr. Dalal, we have Dr. Yuki, we have Dr. Nakib as well to be able to guide them. And it's good to know that consultancies can be also obtained from our speakers. And so as the final word, I would say, first of all, thank you to WIEF for this discourse. I'm very much interested to actually continue this deliberation on a second platform agenda to be looking at the nitty-gritty of it. Dr. Dalal explained if you're a startup, these are the steps you want to follow through. But again, the different kind of, in each country, particular issues that you need to be challenged with, and you need to be able to solve that at that level. So that has to be taken individually. At the same time, Islamic Economic Forum, so halal is the main issue. In Halal Toiban, for example, for food, it's right now is quite a straightforward in medical perspective, also straightforward. But in cellular agriculture, there's so many elements that need to be looked at because we don't also know the long-term impact of clean technology to produce meat, for example, or even rice. No doubt there is a huge advantage to put this technology in place for various reasons we've discussed. But there are a lot of consumers and also academicians that are very wary of the technology, and that's where Dr. Yuki has explained to us adequately on how we should approach it. Having said that, I think funding is going to be one of the main issues. Funding issue, acceptability issues, and of course, where to start. So would like to urge WIEF again to continue this on another platform. And I think most of our speakers will agree to this. Maybe the next platform we can further deliberate on the safety issues as well, which includes the halal issue that's quite fundamental, I feel. The second thing is the technology. Which technology for us in Malaysia to adopt, since Dr. Dalal thinks that we are one of the premier countries to start as well, having stepped forward to dwell ourselves in cellular agriculture. And we do need services of consultants, people who have done it before, like Dr. Dalal and Dr. Yuki to assist us. So finally, do we have any last words? I would like to have the speakers one by one to just elaborate and share with us in this discourse. There are some of the points they want for us to take home. Dr. Dalal, please, first.
No, I would just say thank you so much for your moderation, Professor Noor, and thank you to all of my esteemed speakers for sharing your insights. Thank you to the audience. Please stay in touch if you'd like to learn more about this industry. You can find me at dalal@swapak.com. You can also follow me on LinkedIn, on Instagram. It's important for us to kind of stay up to date with the latest news. And yeah, I look forward to hearing from you all.
Dr. Yuki? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry, the surrounding is a bit noisy, so can someone else go first?
Okay, Dr. Nakib?
Okay, so I would like to thank WIEF for this invitation and to participate in this kind of discussion. a fundamental discussion towards the for us in terms of how to manage food security and to face the climate change. So cultivated meat is one of the solution. So we hope that we can make a more better place for our child using this kind of novel technology.
Thank you, Dr. Nakib.
Yeah.
Yuki?
Yeah, so cell culture meat and cell agriculture is actually not just food, but we're talking about like making a living engineering material. So it's basically comparable to the discovery of iron or discovery of plastic. So then we will become humanity will become able to manufacture engineer living material. So from that standpoint, the future is actually huge. It goes beyond food. So it's basically the time for like laboratory actually, and that's what we really need to do now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Yuki. Yes, indeed. There's so many things that we need to take onwards from here in order to develop fully the understanding and also the acceptability of cellular agriculture for not only food safety, but for the health and safety of mankind in general. Thank you very much.
Thank you to our distinguished guests for being here today and making this webinar successful. Now, thank you to all. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have for today. Now, we truly hope that you have gained valuable inputs and ideas. Now, on behalf of WIEF Foundation, thank you for joining us today. Stay safe and have a great day ahead.